In the heart of Soviet Russia, where secrecy reigned and power was absolute, one man defied logic and sent chills down the spines of the most powerful figures of the era. His name was Wolf Messing, a mind reader, a hypnotist, a man whose abilities blurred the line between science and the supernatural. And when he met Joseph Stalin, history itself held its breath. Wolf Messing arrived in the Soviet Union, a man with no country, escaping the horrors of Nazi persecution. But in a land where logic ruled and mysticism was shunned, he found himself an outcast. He was mocked, rejected, and labeled a fraud. Until 12 of the Soviet Union's top professors put him to the test. Endorsed by 12 professors? Upon arriving in the Soviet Union, Messing found himself in an unfamiliar environment and felt lost at times. His diary recorded, "In the Soviet Union, people's ideological consciousness struggles against superstition. There are no fortune tellers, no magicians, and no palm readers. These activities are equally unwelcome, including telepathy. Whenever Messing tried to demonstrate telepathy, he was often rudely interrupted. To break through the rigid mindset of the public, he tirelessly performed thousands of psychological experiments to prove the existence of telepathy. Eventually, an art director believed in his abilities and took a huge risk by recruiting Messing as an actor, allowing him to join the Brest community's performance team. Only then did Messing's circumstances begin to improve. As Messing's reputation grew, many people became increasingly hostile toward him. Some considered him a dangerous figure, while others suspected him of being a spy. As a result, the Soviet government decided to scrutinize him. A scholarly committee consisting of 12 professors began an intensive series of tests and experiments to evaluate him. For example, they blindfolded Messing and placed him in a completely dark room, where he was asked to distinguish 24 different colors from a pile of colored paper, pencils, and paint. Except for confusing black with brown and blue with dark green, he saw all other colors with complete accuracy. The professors then continued their tests by blindfolding him again and asking him to read a newspaper editorial aloud. He did not misread a single word. The following day, he underwent a thorough medical examination by a team of doctors. So, what was the result? The scholarly committee eventually drafted an official document confirming that Messing indeed possessed unique and extraordinary abilities. As the market for performances opened up, his acts sparked a global intellectual storm. He even received public praise from various levels of military officers, some congratulating him on his scientific career, others expressing gratitude for his psychological experiments, and some thanking him for his treatment of wounded soldiers. First meeting with Stalin, the test. On the snowy night of December 20th, 1940, Messing returned to his hotel after a performance. Just as he was about to unwind from a tense day, there was a sudden knock on his door. Upon opening it, he found 2 officers standing outside. They had orders to bring him to Moscow immediately. Messing had no choice but to put on his clothes again and follow them. Eventually, he was taken to Stalin's villa. After a thorough security check, Messing was allowed inside. When he entered, Stalin was seated at his desk, reviewing a stack of documents. Intelligence reports about Messing from secret departments across the country. The head of the Soviet secret police, Beria, had personally observed Messing and spoken with him. In his report to Stalin, Beria recounted that his guards were highly disciplined and never stepped out of line. Yet Messing had hypnotized them into dancing on the spot, right in front of Beria himself. Even without a pass, Messing could seemingly walk through walls, rendering Beria's security measures useless. At their first meeting, Stalin was deeply skeptical of Messing and made no attempt to hide his distrust. He bluntly accused Messing of being nothing more than a charlatan. Dismissing the reports, Stalin scoffed. "They say you're cunning and can walk through walls. Is that true?" He then challenged Messing to predict a major event that no one else knew about, and to be completely accurate. Messing responded, "In January of this year, a coup will take place in Bucharest. the capital of Romania. There will be riots and massacres. The coup will fail. It will begin on January 21st and end on the 23rd. Intrigued, Stalin replied. In Romania? All right, I'll remember that. There's 1 month left. Messing continued. Your son Vasily will travel to Lipetsk within the next month to attend an advanced training course for squadron commanders. Stalin looked at Messing curiously, quickly falling into deep thought. He said, "If your prediction about Romania comes true, we will meet again." This meeting left Stalin somewhat disappointed. Messing had not freely displayed his abilities before him. In truth, Messing had desperately wanted to tell Stalin that a German invasion was imminent. The Nazis would occupy Kyiv, Ukraine's capital, and execute tens of thousands of Jews in a place called Babi Yar. They would establish numerous concentration camps, imprison hundreds of thousands of Soviet prisoners of war, and let them perish in agony. Messing knew these things would happen, but he could not say them. He could not gamble with human lives, using a tragic reality to prove his foresight and glorify himself. Second meeting with Stalin. The unspeakable truth. On January 21st, 1941, while in Kharkov, Ukraine, Messing heard a radio broadcast confirming that armed riots had broken out in Bucharest, Romania. On February 3rd, an officer from the NKVD, the secret police, arrived to escort him to the Kremlin. Stalin, smoking a cigarette, solemnly told Messing that his prediction had come true. Stalin then asked Messing about the future of his 3 children. Messing's diary entry from February 5, 1941, recorded this meeting. When Stalin inquired about his second son Vasily, a sense of fear suddenly overwhelmed Messing. He saw Stalin's funeral. He saw Vasily being arrested, tortured, and subjected to brutal interrogation. All the power and glory would leave Vasily, and his fate would be tragic, something Stalin would not want to hear. If Messing revealed the truth and Stalin believed him, he would certainly order the execution of many people to prevent this outcome. Messing did not want to alter history or interfere with people's fates. So he simply said, "Vasily will become a general." Perhaps the answer was too simplistic. Stalin shot Messing a glance as if to say, "Is that all?" Given Stalin's immense power at the time, making his beloved son a general, or even a national leader, was entirely possible. As for his daughter Svetlana, Messing foresaw that she would betray Stalin in the future, openly condemning both him and the Soviet government. However, he did not reveal this either. Instead, he cautiously stated, "She will live a long and happy life." Third meeting with Stalin, 1945. Months after their second meeting, Nazi Germany launched its invasion of Moscow. On November 3, 1941, Messing was once again summoned to the Kremlin. This time, Stalin appeared extremely fatigued and wanted to know when the war would end. Messing saw that a brutal battle, the Battle of Stalingrad, would take place in southern Russia in 1943. He also saw that in early May 1945, the Soviet army would triumph in the Battle of Berlin. And on May 8th, Germany would surrender, marking the end of the war. There would be a grand victory parade in Red Square, where returning soldiers would throw Nazi flags onto the tomb of the unknown soldier. Even Messing himself was shaken when he saw the date, May 8, 1945. It meant the war would drag on for years, leading to countless military and civilian deaths. Upon hearing 1945, Stalin let out a long, helpless sigh. His original plan had been for the war to end by 1942. Yet, according to Messing, the war would last from November 1941 until May 1945. A timeline that felt unbearably long for Stalin. He silently puffed on his pipe, lost in thought. Fourth meeting with Stalin, foreseeing the Cold War. In 1942, the Soviet-German war reached a critical phase, with neither side gaining a decisive advantage. On January 10, 1942, in the Kremlin, Stalin accused Messing of extending the war by 5 years, contrary to his initial plan of ending it within a year. Messing had no defense, for history was not written by him, nor was the world's balance of power his to determine. During this meeting, Stalin asked about Hitler, Roosevelt, and Churchill. Messing predicted Hitler would remain in power until the war's end. Roosevelt would die in April 1945 before the war concluded. And Churchill would lead the West in uniting against Soviet communism, initiating a prolonged global confrontation between two opposing camps, the free world and the communist bloc. Messing said, "This long period of confrontation will be called the Cold War." Stalin repeated the term, lit his pipe, and fell silent. 5 years later, in 1947, U.S. President Truman officially declared the Cold War. It lasted until the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. In the grand theater of history, even the most powerful individuals are merely actors placed in predetermined roles. Messing saw the future, but he did not change it. He could not. History, he believed, was already written, and even the most powerful men were mere players in a grander script. Even as the Soviet Union dismissed mysticism, the people never stopped believing. So, what do you think?
Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Share it, because some stories are meant to be discovered together. And stay curious. I'll see you in the next chapter.